Right now we are at the wet mill. We do the 3 different processes and a variation of the natural. We do wash, honey, and natural. Wash, we're doing less and less every year. This year probably not even 10% will be wash, and more or less the same quantity will be honey. Let's say in between the two it will be less than 20%, and then the rest, more than 80%, it is going to be natural. We use 3 different ways of washing coffee. We use the direct, the mucilaging process, very little. We do the pulping and fermentation, and then the next day we do the hand wash, real hand wash, depending on the client. Like for example, 1900 meters and above, we do hand wash. We call it special Elida Reserve on the Catuai. And we also do the fermentation, and then to wash it quicker, we use the demucilation machine, but it's not the same as the other one. The other one is continuous. The first one that I mentioned goes in the pulper and comes out washed without the mucilage to the mucilation removing machine. This other one is fermented. The fermentation period anywhere from 24 hours, sometimes more, depending on the thickness of the mucilage and on the temperatures. We use the machine to remove the mucilage.
Why do you do less wash? You said you were doing less and less wash. Why is
because
that?
Our clients are looking for more naturals. And in my case, since I have many different ways of drying coffee, I take my naturals to drying beds, new modern drying beds, traditional drying beds, mechanically with the guardiolas, the rotating dryers, static dryer. I have a static dryer, high elevation, which is here, patio, or low elevation patio, which is hot, windy, and sunny. Here it's always raining because we are very close to the mountain range, and this is a particular weather of this area, of this mountain range area, and it's drying here is very slow, very, very slow. So the patio is good to dry coffee, and I can alter the drying in the patio because I can put a thick layer of coffee or a thin layer of coffee. And since my clients look for winey, natural coffee, and I have enough room to dry natural coffee, they look for natural in my farm, and they go to other farms for the wash, because to dry natural it takes sometimes even 3 times or 4 times longer than for a wash coffee. And of course you have to dry the pulp, the mucilage, and it takes 2 times longer. So I need 3 or 4 times the infrastructure, which locally I have.
When you come back to the wet mill, do you have any secrets how you are different than other farmers?
What is my secret? I don't have a secret when I do wash, because I do the traditional fermentation, which has been common forever, or I use the traditional fermentation hand wash, traditional fermentation machine wash, or I use the direct, the mucilaging removal system, which is everybody does that. Where I have not secrets, but I have other methods of drying coffee is the natural process, because the natural process I can make it to taste very, very clean. I can make it taste like a wash coffee. The guardiola dryers, I can, without hurting the seeds, I can put high temperatures for 24 hours non-stop, and I will remove the flavors of the mucilage and of the pulp that go into the seed that you roast and drink. Or if I do a slow process here at the beds or in the patios, by not raking the coffee for the whole entire day, thick layers of coffee, I can make it very slow drying. And I have other ways. I can also get rid of the problem with fermentation at the beginning, and then put it in back for 4 or 5 days, and then get it back to the beds to dry it. And that way I get a lot of winey or slow dry that we call it now in terms of drying slow dry coffees, which they totally different. Okay, here we are in our new double-decker bed drying system. If I show you pictures of when this farm started 100 years ago, you will see drying beds too. So this is nothing new. What is new is the materials. This is metal, and this is a special mesh, plastic mesh, that I consider this a little bit better than the metal meshes or the wood meshes that my grandparents used when they started this farm. They used wood. Now we use plastic mesh with, so it will be more permanent infrastructure with metal. But at the end, we get the same thing. We get here the coffee, the fruits, okay, of coffee, drying here, and it takes anywhere from, if you have a normal Elida weather, it takes 20 days to dry to 25 days, but never less than 18 days to dry in these beds. This is a very slow drying type of process. We have an excellent area to store coffee because of the temperature. Temperature is very, very, very important for coffee quality. For long-lasting coffees, when the roasters receive it and they store it and then they roast it 6 months later, everything comes from the farm, from the mill. If you store coffee at high temperatures, your coffee will not last long and the quality will not be the same. So that's why we have invested heavily in our main storage area, and then another area that I call the vault.
Wilford, what's the difference between the 7 different drying methods when it comes to the flavor? How can you alter the flavor of the coffee with these?
How can I alter the flavor? Okay, let's give you an example. Let's say that I take the fruit from today. Fruit is more or less 50% humidity, the seed. Okay, the seed inside the fruit, coffee is a fruit. The seed inside the fruit is 50% humidity when I pick it. Okay, I have to lower it down. In my case, my standard is 10%. How do I lower that to 10%? The different method: slow dry, medium dry, static dry, or Guardiola dry. If I do very, 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 very slow dry, I can get very winey. And if I don't do it right, I can get awfully vinegar taste. Okay, but I can also take that same fruit, put it in one of the rotating dryers, the Guardiola dryers, put high temperature at the beginning, and then lower it a little bit, and 24 hours on high heat, high heat, high heat, high heat, high heat, high heat, until I get it dry to 10%. That coffee, that fruit, will not be the same as the one that took, say, 25 days versus 5 days, because what I did with the machines is I dried the pulp, okay, the cover. I dried the mucilage before it went into the seed, so you will not taste all those fruit flavors that you will taste in a slow dry coffee or even medium dry coffee, because I already removed all those flavors by drying them right away. Okay, it's like this, dehydrating a fruit. That's what we're doing, dehydrating a fruit and getting rid of all the fruit flavors and leaving the seed with their, particular flavor. A little bit of fruit will come into the, no doubt, into the seed, but very little. While if I do it very slowly, I will have an opposite cup. So, and that's what we call design load. Some people in some countries, they prefer like very clean, nice, natural, but the majority of my clients, they prefer more fruit flavors in the seed. Some of them winey, some of them like light rum, okay? And that's what I call the lot design.
You mentioned that if you don't do things right, they can get vinegary. So what are the mistakes what a farmer can do to make that vinegary, or what they should do not to make it vinegary?
Okay, keep in mind that the coffee starts just as soon as you harvest it. Even before that, you started like a fermentation process. Okay, so what you, if you take the fruit and you leave it in a bag, laying in the mill, in the wet mill normally, and you leave it laying there, you will get the kind of over fermentation, and then after the over fermentation you will get the vinegar. It will be dirty. Okay, or if you screw up another way, let's say if I have a very rainy week or 2 weeks of very rainy weather, and I have my coffee here and it's raining, the sun doesn't come out, I will get fungi on top of the fruits, and that fungi will go into the bin and will be the seed will taste dirty when you cup it. So you have to avoid, once, over fermentation at the beginning. Second, you have to avoid fungi problems because of your weather.